Thank you, Amit, and John and Adwala. The first question we have is, how can I have conversations with my colleagues about pay and encourage them to join the BMA?
Wonderful question. I think our slide set today will empower you to do so, to show them what's happening with SAS doctors. 31% loss is a huge loss. Would you agree, John, Ujwala?
Definitely. That's especially in this particular financial climate. Yes, the cost of living has hit hard. Yes, definitely.
So if you start from there and you can spread the word about the work we're doing, and if there are WhatsApp groups, we certainly are happy to join WhatsApp groups and feed in information about webinars we're arranging or meetings that are being arranged in various regions. We intend to attend as many as we can. Hope that answers it.
Thank you. Our next question: when will we ballot for industrial action?
We were expecting that question, to be honest. So to ballot for industrial action, we've got to make sure various things are in place. So junior doctors started their WhatsApp campaigns in March last year. The consultants started their campaigns in November, December last year, and are balloting currently. The issue is our ground campaigns haven't really started to that level. This is a beginning, and we certainly intend to make a huge start going forward. So in the autumn, I think balloting anybody in August is a bad month because a lot of people are away on annual leave. Remember, when we ballot, we need to cross that 50% threshold, otherwise our ballot is meaningless. So in the meantime, we intend to build support on the shop floor, clean the data, make sure people are registered as SAS doctors on our database. The addresses are right. It is a postal ballot. It is not an electronic ballot, and it is certainly not showing your hands. That's what law demands. So to do that, we need to have the correct information. I don't know if there's anything else anybody else wants to add.
Definitely start getting WhatsApp groups. Definitely start getting membership. If you are not member, please become members, because only members can ballot.
And create awareness among SAS doctors in your respective department, hospitals, etc., so that this message is spread across and people gain the confidence to come forward and understand the issues, so that we can help move this ballot forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question: will we be coordinating any industrial action with the consultants?
Another good question. I think we haven't approached them as yet. Their ballot will finish on the 28th of June. They have already set aside the dates for industrial action. But once we've done our ballot, we can certainly look at that. I mean, we will have to speak to them.
Thank you. Another question about whether LEDs can be included if there is a ballot for IA.
So essentially, we can ballot only those who are on SAS contracts or have a contract mirroring the SAS grade. The SAS committee standing orders agrees that if they fulfill the contractual requirement, that is that they are they've completed 4 years after their medical qualification with 2 years in the specialty, they would be eligible for a SAS contract. So technically, we would be able to ballot them. However, they need to be registered on our database as such, because we can't reach out to people to ask them, are you 4 years or not? I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. A question on, has anyone seen any successes with the rate card so far?
John?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think it's early days. I think the short answer is yes, I would say. But it's limited. As far as I can see, the junior doctor industrial action has given it a bit more prominence, and this rate card is the one which has been discussed when the industrial action happened, and definitely in the region where I work, which is the Oxford region, there are some trusts which have offered SAS rate cards pay, namely for SAS doctors who were covering posts during doing extra contractual work during industrial action. And we are encouraging that if we stick together, this will happen. I know it's a mountain to climb in terms of convincing others and colleagues, but hopefully this will, with everyone's support and help, sort of move this forward. Yes, would be the short answer, but yes, there's a long way to go.
Thank you, John. So you say that SASC will exhaust all other options before securing a SAS ballot. What are these options? And given the behaviour of the government so far, is it realistic to delay any longer?
Ujjwala has already told you what the options are. We've written to them. And to be honest, the response back was a positive one, I think. They recognize the fact that we've done a lot of work. And we do carry quite a lot of responsibility. So realistically, the financial environment is such, but don't forget that it's elections next year, possibly summer, possibly autumn. So we don't know that the government will accede to all our requests, but at least let's try. We can't. And I'm telling you honestly, junior doctors tried, consultants tried. They've had plenty of meetings with the Department of Health, Social Care before they actually called the ballot. So we're trying as well. We've tried desperately to get the new contract to be uplifted accordingly. Let's wait and see what happens with the DDRB this year, and we'll keep you posted.
Thank you. Next question. For the ballot to happen, how many SAS doctors need to engage? Do you have statistics of SAS BMA members who are eligible to vote?
We do have a database. We're cleaning it up. We will need at least 5,000 votes, but I can't give you the exact numbers as yet. Remember, this is only in England. Just today, I attended the deanery meeting in the Northwest, and our numbers have swollen there to what HEE's got was almost 2,000. So it's an expanding workforce, and they are joining the BMA, and as more and more join, the number will swell. So we need to get 50% of that minimum on the ballot. Whether they say yes or no, for the ballot to go through, you need to cross that 50% target. So we need exact data of place of work, where we post that ballot, etc., etc. And that's hard work that we're doing now over the summer. And that's actually another reason to postpone till the autumn.
Thank you. Can each update to the rate card be emailed to those doctors with details up to date on your database?
I don't see why not. I mean, but how would we get their emails? We send out a newsletter. Ujjwala, you do send out a newsletter, don't you?
It's always been sent every 2 weeks and it's gone. Plus all the LNCs will have.
That's true as well. Yeah. And if you're not getting the newsletters, maybe you should look at your communications. Maybe you've inadvertently opted out of receiving newsletters. So that's the only way we can communicate. We signed up to what's called the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulations, and even I don't know who we email because we just cannot share any data whatsoever. So we just request for that to be done, and then the BMA has another communications wing that undertakes that action.
The other option
Thank
is for colleagues to get onto the web page of BMA, and I think most of the details are there, including the rate cards and etc. So please do try and visit the BMA web page. It's got a whole lot of resources for SAS doctors.
And also, if we start making our WhatsApp groups, we could send you those. That will be quicker. Disseminating information quicker is WhatsApp group. Start today.
Certainly been very successful with consultants and junior doctors.
Following on nicely from that, how do we find out our local SAS WhatsApp group?
Your LNC rep, you should have, in every trust, there should be an LNC rep who will be aware of the local WhatsApp group. So we're also reaching out to LNCs. We're doing a similar webinar only for LNCs. I think it's in 2 weeks' time, or maybe next week, I'm not sure.
On 28th of June, Amit.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we're reaching out to them as well. This is a multi-pronged attack. And as the communications director and the BMA said, the air war is through them, and then we have the ground war, which is through our industrial relations officers who will come and support you on the shop floor in LNCs and otherwise as well.
Thank you. Next question. There has been huge resistance from SAS doctors to join the BMA despite the present free 3-month membership offer. Do you have any suggestions at all?
Well, our numbers are growing. When we signed the new contract, our numbers went up massively. And the fact that if they are going to take industrial action, they have to be BMA members. And if they're going to ballot, they have to be BMA members. We hope we'll bring some more in. We are doing our best, the best we can for SAS doctors, and we need to hear more. The strength is in numbers. I mean, the junior doctors, when they voted, I think about 98% of them voted, and all voted yes. Don't quote me on that, but what I'm trying to say is it's the numbers that bring the strength, to be honest.
Thank you. Someone has written, in their trust, they're not following the SAS rate card during the junior doctors strike action, despite LNC negotiating with them. Can anything be done about this?
Well, if there's an LNC negotiation which is completed and they've agreed to use the rate card, the rest of the organization has to honor that agreement, in my understanding. I don't know. John Ujjwala, is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
That's correct.
If it is
it's a question of perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the northwest of England, I know almost every LNC agreed that for the industrial action purpose, they would implement the rate card completely. So
even many trusts in London have agreed for that, and even Oxfordshire region.
Perhaps if you're having an issue, perhaps you can take it up with your LNC rep, or the LNC rep can take it up with the IRO who represents your area or trust.
Thank you. A question asking, will the industrial action involve all 4 nations?
The ballot was for England only.
Thank you. Someone is asking if in future we could do these webinars on Teams, as obviously the participants can only see the panel and hear the panel, they can't see or hear each other. So there's a suggestion that they do it on Teams so that.
We're very happy to. The worry is that the numbers can be more than Teams would take. So that is the problem really. I mean, today we had about 200 expected. I don't know how many have joined, but 200 registered, and that might be too big for Teams. I'm not sure how Teams will cope. And then monitoring that chat also is and I've done CISA seminars with 55, 60 at the most, and that gets really difficult to ask questions, etc. That's why we thought this was a better way of working. I don't know if any of you want to say anything else.
I think internet connection is not always good with Teams. This is better way.
Yeah, the other we had a SAS open conference zone meeting in Oxford region recently, and it was run on Teams. We had about 300 participants, but the mode of presentation is similar to what we are having now. So you can't interact from camera point of view. So it's run like webinar. So the mode changes to webinar. I'm not a techie, but that's what was done in our region. So you could, it mainly runs as a webinar. And the platform doesn't take up as we go over a certain number. So we will definitely look into it if that's possible or not. But I think that's what happens with Teams. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Why did you negotiate the SAS contracts in 2021 and not ask for pay restoration?
So when we negotiated the SAS contract, we had one big ask. Remember, inflation then was less than 2%. And we were told that we were going to get that pot of funding and use it to leave it. Our biggest ask was to rejuvenate and bring back the associate specialist grade, because to date, in every survey that the BMA has ever done, the only thing we were told is bring back the associate specialist. We wanted a lot more, but the other thing was also to the beginning of the specialty doctor was 37,000, which was so there were SAS doctors earning 10,000 lesser and supervising people who were earning 10,000 more than them, which didn't really make sense. So getting that specialty doctor, getting the number of years reduced, getting all that done in that environment of less than 2% inflation seemed a reasonable thing to do. That was the mandate we had from SAS doctors in the country, and that's why we negotiated it.
Thank you. We did touch on this earlier, but there are a few questions asking about coordinating action, possibly with consultants. The concern being that if it was just SAS doctors in a particular trust alone, then the trust would manage fine without them.
And that's very well said, and it's a very good point. But I'll tell you something. Anesthetics, A&E. If tomorrow in my A&E all the SAS doctors walked out, we'd have to close it. We have our pockets of strength. DGHs are better represented in terms of numbers of SAS doctors compared to tertiary teaching centers. I accept that. So the suggestion is very valid. What's more important to me is personally is that if the consultants go on strike and we want, they'll ask us to do the work of the consultants, so run the theatre list and do the clinics, etc., etc. And that's a good enough reason to want to go on strike with them together. And I accept that's a very valid reason. So once we do ballot, and if we do get more than 50% and it does say yes, then we will approach the consultant committee. Doing it prematurely doesn't make sense, really.
Thank you. The BMA has not been very visible on SAS doctors. How will you ensure that you give SAS doctors a voice and the recognition they deserve?
Do you have an SAS charter in your trust? That's the first document we signed, and it's called the BMA SAS charter, although it belongs to 4 organizations. You see, as I said, numbers bring strength, and if we don't have enough clamoring for roles within the BMA and standing for elections and coming up to the BMA, this all works through elections, and they're annual. They're not anything. You have a regional meeting, go attend the regional meeting, and we co-opt 3 members over the summer. We are going to co-opt this year as well. The advertisement will go out. We would love to have new voices and new faces in the BMA, and we have the negotiating rights for SAS doctors. So we do all we can, and if there's anything else you want us to do, please let us know. We've given you the email address. We'd happily go out of our way to do things.
Thank you. Do you have any materials on the pay campaign that we can use locally?
Yeah, everything is on the web page. If you go on BMA web page, it is there.
And please liaise with your LNC members locally, and they will be able to liaise with the IRO in turn, and they'll be able to sort of organize sort of local meetings, departmental meetings, etc. in the some in a format something similar to that. And this is what we're doing now, and that will be a good way of having a collective voice within the department's trust, etc. So that's another way of getting more information out, transferring information to others.
Will there be more webinars that we can use to network with the people in our local area?
Well, you will have a regional SASC meeting, and we will endeavor to set up more webinars going forward. We wanted to see what the uptake would be and what the appetite was, and today was certainly a good beginning as far as we're concerned. But we will reach out as much as we can.
Thank you. We have a question saying that there aren't many SAS doctors in their trust. So how can they engage with other SAS doctors?
So I don't know which trust this is, but every region has a SAS committee. So we have a Northwest SAS committee where we get SAS doctors from each trust attend, and the meetings are virtual. They're well advertised. Having said that, the advertisements go out only to BMA members. So if the numbers are small in your trust, reach out to your regional network. Your trust will still have an LNC, and your LNC will still have an SAS rep, even if the number is small. And that SAS rep will always get information that we fed in. If you don't have an LNC SAS rep, please stand for that post, get elected, become active, and you'll get the information from us.
I think everyone has to be visible and keep talking to each other, keep engaged.
Yeah, best to know your region, which region you are in, and then get in touch that way, because you sometimes I can understand the feeling that when you're isolated and when you're alone, quite hard to sort of get your views across. So networking is a good thing, and using your regional committee as a platform, that might be the first step forward.
Thank you. Are there any deadlines that you'll be giving government before you proceed to a ballot?
We will have to. The next SASC meeting's in July, and there we will collate all the data we have and come up with what is going to be the campaign going forward, and at which point we've already been given an offer. Ujjwala wrote a letter to the Secretary of State, and we got a response. We are looking forward to a date for meeting them and putting forward our asks. And of course, there will be a deadline to fulfill those asks. And if they don't, then we've got to do what we've got to do.
Thank you. There's a question about lack of visibility on social media. The SAS Twitter page isn't used very often, and will this be increased?
We're trying to. I have a Twitter account, but I'm extremely poor on Twitter myself. But we've got a BMA SAS Twitter page, and we've got some good tweeters out there, and we hope to engage with them. So yeah, watch the space.
Thank you. A question asking, can the BMA support the SAS request to get the BMA pay scale for annual salary from the trust? Underpayment is an issue. And can BMA support the request of SAS for overseas experience acknowledged from trusts? The trust most often reply that they are not obliged to pay.
Yes, I hear that too. My organization, as long as they can prove it, recognizes every year's experience wherever they are. But there are organizations, some will recognize only 50% of it. The problem that I regularly see is that people join, accept a salary scale, and instead of negotiating at the level of joining to say I've got that much experience, they just want the job, and then it becomes more difficult to negotiate that scale. But we've approached NHS employers. The market is at the moment desperate for SAS doctors. We're getting all kinds of suggestions. I don't know if you've heard about SAS doctors as GPs, etc., was in the press. So we certainly intend to make a stand to say that if they can prove their experience outside the country, that should be recognized as well.
It's down to local negotiation and how you.
Thank you. There's a comment saying that praising the relationship that you, Amit, have built with the powers that be, shall we say, with the DDRB over the past few years. And will this mean that the negotiations with SASC will be potentially better when IA happens because of this relationship that you have?
I don't know, to be honest. We've never taken IA. I have been fortunate in the support that I've had from the BMA and from SAS doctors when I represent in front of the DDRB. We have managed some success, but not as good as we should. We're still far away from what our salaries should be, considering the expertise we bring. And especially as we get older, remember I said in the pension slide, the more the pay, the better the pension. And we've all moved now to in 2022 to a care scheme, so that's a career average as well. And that was one of the thoughts we had when we negotiated the new contract, about getting that career average to the level so that people wouldn't suffer with their pensions. So hopefully the contacts will help, but I'm not sure, to be fair.
Thank you. Is there any chance of restarting the discretionary points for SAS doctors?
We had a motion at conference in that regard as well, and actually, I think it just got carried. I'm not sure. It was a tough discussion. So I remember the days people used to call them optional and discriminatory points because only some people got them and some people didn't. And that's gone, Ujjwala.
Also, it will create gender pay gap because
Yes.
lots of people are part-time, less than full-time, and they won't
Correct.
be eligible to apply for the thing.
And when we were given the option in the new contract negotiations, we put all the money in to get so that everybody would be benefited rather than a few. If we do get an extra pot of funding from somewhere, certainly something that we could look at. But that was the only way we would get the specialty doctor to the 80,000 mark, by using everything we had and putting it in there. And to be honest, in 12 years, now that's grown to 82,000 something, isn't it, John? Is that what you showed?
That's right. That's 82,000. Yes.
Oh.
82,611 to be precise.
Nearly 83.
But yeah, it's an aspiration. I do think it got carried. I don't remember at conference.
Thank you. What else will the SASC leadership be doing to boost their visibility with members?
Going up and down the country, talking to you about this pay campaign. 1, update the charter. 2, because we've got to, the charter was signed when I was chair in the past in 2014. We've got to update it to reflect the new contract. Negotiate with government. We've got to get a few things off the ground. The SAS development funding, we went to the chair of NHS employers and they've assured us that this year they will give us the money. It'll come as part of the general NHS disbursement, but they'll try and ensure that it's earmarked for SAS doctors. The last thing I'll say is we've persistently been after NHS Digital to give us a code. And I believe in April 23, the code has been released for coding of work on our name. If we get that and we get our work recognized, I think that would mean quite a lot. So yeah, there's loads of things. Plus, we have to get some of us Twitter savvy. I don't know if John and Ujjwala fancy the challenge.
I'm not taking. Yeah, I try, but
yeah, open to anyone in the website.
That's it.
Webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll try.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the pensions as well has made a big difference, really, to be able to partially retire and then carry on working as an associate specialist. These little things do matter, really, because so we've done a few things. Off the top of my head.
Going and showing your visibility in LNC is the main thing. Go and attend the senior medical staff meetings. Show yourself there.
Become educators, appraisers, and that's something that's a hard-won victory, where nobody would recognize us as educators. So we went directly to the GMC in 2012, and since then we've been recognized as educators. And again, that comes with a 0.25 PA, etc. So there's loads of the challenge when we started was because the smaller number. The challenge was only of recognition. That's the numbers multiplied. And John made this point really well, that we represent people at the beginning of their career as a specialty doctor, and then at the end as either a specialist or associate specialist. And there's a huge difference in competencies and difference in needs, requirements. So we've got to represent every aspect of the SAS grade, and that is a big challenge.
Thank you. We've had a comment saying that SAS doctors in their trust do not feel that the BMA is looking out for them. So do you have any advice for engaging with them and persuading them to join the BMA?
All I can say is organize a meeting, call one of us, and we'll come and we'll help.
Yeah, I agree in terms that sometimes we don't get the message across. There's some sort of paucity in communication because obviously the LNCs might not be sort of active as much, transmission of information, etc. So, I mean, we acknowledge that. We see that. I think, being more sort of visible would be something we'll look into. Definitely, any ideas which come across, we will take forward and use it. Thank you.
And Ujjwala has made this point of the repair restoration web page. Use that to show people that, look, things are happening, and the more we support, the more we will be victorious in a way.
And networking, keep meeting your friends, colleagues, speak to them, spread it word of mouth, and be there.
Okay. Will you be negotiating with government to fix issues with the contract as well as on pay?
Apologies, I didn't get that.
Sorry. Will you be negotiating with the government to fix issues with the contract as well as on pay?
Yeah, yes. I mean, there's lots of issues in the contract which I think John outlined those, didn't you, John?
Ujjwala did mention about the quarterly JNC meetings we have.
Yeah. So, the SS development funding, the advocates, the specialist versus specialty doctor, etc., etc. Yes is the answer.
What will you do if the government fails to give the new contracts an uplift again for this pay round?
Well, it's going to make it really difficult, isn't it? And the disparity between the two contracts is the 2008-2021 contracts is going to become so big that, well, we hope that doesn't happen, to be honest. We've really campaigned hard again this time, because the cost of living crisis is hitting everybody. We really hope that that doesn't happen. The BMA has a policy now of working to make the DDR be more reflective of our needs and make it an independent body so that it doesn't have to listen to the government diktat. And I think SAS